I am not going to innovate anything in osteoporosis. It's just that things are happening. We are living longer, and every audience are going to get into osteoporosis. Decade now, from now on, 2 decades or 3 decades. But everyone certainly will be a patient of osteoporosis one day or the other. Sometimes I think the cardiologist Arun Srinivas is very lucky. Things have changed so dramatically. So today I say, ಏನಾದರೆ ಒಂದು ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆದರೆ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. I get one stent and we done it and back to action. But any other problem in medical science does not have that kind of prognosis as today a cardiologist got. And that's the most beautiful part of Arun Srinivas. The problem is you about blood pressure, and everybody was talking about it. I was just thinking when did I last check my blood pressure? Well, that's life. Let's move on. Osteoporosis. As I said, each one of you will be having it one day or the other. Question is when. And what does it mean? It means low bone mass, micro-deterioration of the bone, increase in bone fragility, and then you get to fracture. 2 million fractures every year, cost 10 billions annually in United States, as stated by National Osteoporosis Foundation, United States. If that is in United States, unbelievable must be in India. 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men aged about 50 years will have an osteoporosis-related fracture in their lifetime. By 2020, 1 in 2 Americans will be at risk for fractures in osteoporosis. And why this lady? Well, she doesn't happen to be my close relative, but at least she's going towards menopausal age very soon. And she's a good candidate for osteoporosis. The problem is not just knowing what is osteoporosis, the problem is despite knowing everything, you still do not bother too much about it. And these orthopedic surgeons like me are very, very famous for it. We look at a fracture and it's so happy, we just get a great feel and just feel like fixing a fracture, but never, never, never treat an osteoporosis, absolutely. In fact, one particular study which was done, in that study which was showed all around India, then only 1% of the discharge slip showed management of osteoporosis. Otherwise, it was PFN, DHS, and that's about it. That means we only treat the effect, not the cause. And orthopedic surgeons are very, very unbelievable people. They like to fix in that. Despite the fact that everyone knows one person has a fracture in the hip on one side, 20% of the time the fellow is going to get a fracture on the opposite side, knocked out within 1 year. And knowing all these facts, we continue to do the same thing. Now what does happen? 20% of the people die within matter of 1 year. All because we have a famous saying that we all come through the brim of the pelvis. Osteoporosis is underdiagnosed. And in 200,000 postmenopausal women that were looked at in a basic study, 40% were osteopenic, 7% osteoporotic, 11% had more than fractures after 45 years. But most important, it is undertreated. Not only by orthopedic surgeons, but by physician, everyone possible. And then if you have a cardiologist, he'll put the fear into them, saying, hey, calcium tagondre amele innond problem barbodu anta. So what happens is, at the end of the day, 16% do not take calciums, 18% do not take vitamin D. That's why calcium, I think, is doing well. I do not know whether Candila people are doing. 57 are not exercising, 35% are not taking any treatment. And these ladies are famous of getting themselves undertreated. Sorry, there are a couple of ladies there, with due respect. They always believe that they should be always supporting the family, their children and everything, but never support their spine. And that's why most of the time these ladies tend to start bending at the age of 60 and go further on. And then they think we are being very humble and modest, that's why we bend. Actually, they're bending because they are osteoporotic. And that's a sorry state of affairs. The beauty is that this disease is a very silent disease. It slowly creeps into you without knowing when it's going to happen. And if it happens only because of a break in the bone. We call that a fracture. And 75% of the time it has been diagnosed only subsequent to the fracture and never before, because everyone is not looking at it at all. And so it's going to be a challenge always. What does it mean medically? It means more and more fractures, patients will suffer from pain, limited motion, and a lot of people go through psychological depression. What is the financial implication means this? In a private hospital, an average fracture around the hip will cost about somewhere around between 2 to 3 lakhs for an average patient, while in a public sector or some of the government hospitals, it should cost them 40 to 50,000. I mean, when you talk about 40 to 50,000, not that they pay to the hospital, it's just that expenses that are involved because someone has to come to the hospital. A bone breaks due to osteoporosis every 3rd second. So you just imagine every time you take a breath, there's someone breaking a bone. And second only to cardiovascular disease is a global healthcare problem. In India, 1 in 8 males and 1 in 3 females. At least in males here are lucky, women are not so. But the unfortunate thing in India, the women tend to get it at least one decade earlier than the rest of the world. So it's a serious problem. And now we are living longer, we are making more and more diagnoses of osteoporosis. As we become aging population, we see it much more than we were seeing. Pathophysiology is basically just maintaining a balance between bone resorption and bone formation. And if there is more bone resorption and less of bone formation, you call it osteopenia, and if is little no bone formation or bone resorption more, we call it osteoporosis. Lifestyle factor, yes, definitely. Alcohol abuse, smoking, vitamin D deficiency, inadequate physical activity, high salt intake, excessive thinning, excessive vitamin E, and immobilization. Genetic disease could be a particular reason, and some of the endocrine disorders like Cushing disease, people who are on steroids a long time, patients on anticoagulants or PPI are more prone. So diagnosis depends on history, physical examination, BMD assessment, vertebral imaging, and biomechanical markers. But someone has a physical examination, and normally we stand against the wall. If you're able to touch your head and the upper chest, our back, there won't be any gap. It means you're fine, but the moment you see a gap, it means that your thoracic spine is bending. And if you put your hand across the rib, and if at all the 4 fingers go across, it means that you're fine. If only 2, then it means that you're bending at the lumbar level. Bone mineral density has been the standard by how we're supposed to define osteoporosis. Anything between -1 to +1 is normal. Between -2 -2.5 is osteopenic, and more than that is osteoporosis. Indication, I think every person and every lady above 65 years must go through a DEXA or a BMD without a doubt, and men about age of 70 years. And people who are at high risk, like especially postmenopausal, patients who are on steroids, patients who had any fractures, I think these people should be getting it a little earlier. We look at the DEXA at different areas, spine, hip, and forearm, around the wrist, the wrist. And the important is the T-score and the Z-score. Well, the T-score is against the control subject. The Z-score is a person matched for the age at 6. Imaging X-ray, especially if a person complains of back spontaneous origin, I think we should take an X-ray, look at it. And most often than not, if you look at that, if you look at the height, that is the height which decreases as compared to the posterior height, the first important sign that you think there's a collapse that's happening, and multiple of this causes the shaped bending of the spine over a period of time. So we need to have an X-ray of anyone who complains of back pain suddenly without any reason. And I think it's very important that diagnosis is made as early as possible. We talk about biomarkers like CTX and NTX to be done. This biomarker does help it, but I think simple basic examination should be more than enough to do that. And we have the FRAX model, which I think has come and very important to give us what are the chances of a person having a fracture for the next 10 years. And that takes into consideration the age, the gender, the femoral BMD, steroid patients, rheumatoid arthritis patients, smoking, alcohol, and other things. And this is how it is actually marked. You need to put the country, India, here, and then fill up the rest of the parts, just say yes, no, and then select the BMD, whether it's hologic or whatever is from where you got the BMD, and it will calculate for you what is the incidence of the fracture that can happen in the next 10 years in your case. There are additional bone densitometer technologies that are available, but I think the most important thing is how do you manage it? What are the general recommendations and what is the pharmacotherapy? Yes, it has been, and this has been taught by the Osteoporotic Foundation, 1000 milligrams of calcium to men aged about 50 to 70, 1200 of calcium to women aged 51 and above, and men aged 75. Now, the ideal thing is how everyone keeps on asking how much calcium do I take and what is the amount of calcium. The amount of calcium that you take among the food may be just about 200 to 250 milligrams every day. Some people ask, "Nan one glass half kuditi saka." I think sometimes you have to drink not 1 liter, you might have to many liters to actually compensate for the amount of calcium that is required. Probably sometimes one tablet is much more easier and simpler to take rather than the tons and tons of, or liters and liters of milk that you can take. What is important is you need to also ask a cardiac people whether you can take and how much. But an average 1200 for a lady means that she has to take about 2 tablets, and it's always better to take in divided doses than taking at one. Must remember that in the absence of vitamin, the deficiency of vitamin D, the absorption of calcium is much less. So that's it, very, very important that you must have the vitamin D in the right quantity, which is 800 to 1000 international units per day. In vitamin D deficiency, you have D to high dose will be required, followed by the maintenance therapy. But I think what's very, very important is regular exercises. That's very important. And then now we have a fall prevention program. In fact, in our institute also, we have a fall prevention program for every patient that's above 60 years. They go through some sort of exercise to ensure they fall. And if you can stop smoking, a lot of people enjoy it. Alcohol, it's good for you. If not, well. But then at least you can still exercise. Some of the effects of exercise, calcium and dietary calcium. But important thing is, when do you start the pharmacotherapy? For every postmenopausal woman and male and older presenting with the following must be considered for the pharmacotherapy. They must be considered. Anyone having a vertebral fracture or a hip fracture, anyone who's got a DEXA score of less than -2.5, anyone between -1.0 to 2.5, anyone who has got a 10 years probability of hip fracture, more than 3% based on FRAX, and anyone who has got more the osteoporotic fracture, more than 20% based on FRAX. Now this is very important. And I think if at all you go through you can open your Google and go to the FRAX and you can open it, you can do it. If you have the BMD done for yourself, the rest of the things you can put it, and then you can actually calculate what is the chance that you can get a fracture in the next 10 years. Therapy, anti-resorptive or anabolic. Bisphosphonates has been the standard, has been time tested. Alendronate has been used quite predominantly for many, many years. The other drugs like calcitonin, estrogen, lot of people, basically HRT, which was talked about, lot of obstetricians or gynecologists, a lot of hesitation about because of the fear of malignancy that was pushed into it. And actually, I think a lot of women suffer because none of them put them on an HRT at the right time, at the right place, and they really suffer. And I think sometimes, if at all, we can educate people and say, these are the risks, these are the this, but these are the plus points that it probably would have been much of. But now, it's too late in the day. So, when do we use what? The guidelines from American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists is the first line is alendronate, risedronate, and zoledronic acid. Second line is ibandronate. Third is roloflexin, and calcitonin is given only for very few patients. And patient with high risk, you need, and the bisphosphonate have failed, you give a teriparatide. Just to give you a lady, this is a question to all of you. Here is a 62-year-old lady that comes to you with a 5 feet and 6 kgs, 10 years post-menopause, DEXA performed 4 tracks, spine T score is minus 2.5. What are you going to tell her? How are you going to? I can give them more history because I know the time. I can't keep it more interesting with you going to go to sleep. So I give her a little more history. Mother suffered from hip fracture in her 70s, so that is one of the things that is given in FRAX, whether there is got family history. Performs weight-bearing exercise 3 times a week. Exercise is one of the most important requirements. Non-smoker, because smokers tend to have more osteoporosis. Regularly drinks alcohol once in a way. Takes 1 calcium supplement each day. Unknown doses. Consumes no dairy product, no vitamin D. With all this history, can anyone tell them? And she's worried. She's come to you for treatment. So what is the next step that you will do?
Twice daily dose of about 600 milligrams or 500 milligrams of calcium with vitamin D3 and calcitrol.
With?
Vitamin D3.
With 500 milligrams of calcium
Twice daily.
Twice daily and?
Vitamin D3 about 1000 milligrams, 1000
yes,
international units.
Anything else?
Because of the previous, because of the family history of mother having a fracture due to osteoporosis, you can put her on salmon calcitonin also.
That is what, see, this is something that you need to look at her history. DEXA score at 4 years back is -0.1. Okay.
Sir, here, so first thing is adequate calcium and vitamin supplementation, and the next thing is, so it's T score is already 2.1, so we can give 60 years we can start alendronate also here, bisphosphonates.
We should not say we should start, we must start. I will do it. That's the thing. So the problem with this, you look at this picture now. How many of you have seen the picture? What do you see in the picture? Okay, now that you answered, what do you see?
The problem is that not come to me.
That is the problem. You always see the lady, but not the car which has got into an accident. Life is all about that. You see a person does not have anything, you think the skeleton is fine. But actually within the skeleton there is some problem that is happening which we refuse to look at. And that has been the biggest bane in treatment of osteoporosis. And when I said it's a silent disease, that's what you need to do it. If a person 4 years back is not been taking adequate treatment, you can expect that it is worsening over a period of time. And that's why it is very, very important for each one of you sitting here that we need to identify patient at very high risk, individualize risk assessment, and have a management strategy for each of these. So what are the guidelines is that every patient post-menopause, age 50 years plus, and anyone who's got a T-score between -0 to 2.5, or anyone who's got an osteoporotic that's 2.5 and above, or anyone FRAX score of more than 3%, definitely requires a treatment without a doubt. To go to this lady again, a lab test was normal. She started on antihistamine as he advised. And very good. He got a good patient and he advised her to starter and alendronate, does well. She does well fairly for once a weekly treatment for 3 months. She fails to refill a prescription. Over the next month, she often misses her weekly. Now that's the problem that we all have. Because it's silent, because it doesn't trouble you, you tend to relax. And then what happens? The problem is you tend to get a fracture because the adherence to treatment in osteoporosis patients are very poor. And if you look at the graph that happens, the rapid drop in persistence is due to non-acceptance, or you think nothing will happen to me, or further decrease in persistence due to multiple factors. You either get some reaction, you don't feel good, many reasons, you have got marriage to attend, you got so many things to do, that you yourself are killing yourself over a period of time. And that's the tragedy that's happening over a period of time, because again and again I say, because it's a silent disorder. When we look at the clinical trials that have happened, wherever the good adherence has been there, when more than 80%, there has been a significant reduction in the risk of vertebral, non-vertebral knee fracture. However, when it comes to the real world, 80% of the patients are non-adherent with prescribed osteoporosis treatment. All of you would know that none of you patients follow, they have their own way of getting themselves treated. There is a poor correlation was reported between patient and physician's perception. Physician thinks that he has given them the treatment, but the patient never does it. And most of these risks are because of this particular poor adherence. And why does the patient resist this thing? Because either they don't understand, or they don't want to understand, or they don't care what happens because it's so silent. When it happens, we'll get it treated. But let's put it this way. A woman's risk of hip fracture is equal to a combined risk of breast plus uterus plus ovary. That means this kills more people than all the three put together. And so it's kind of a serious problem that we are talking about. Newer agents have come in, denosumab that is coming, injection once in 6 months. The different treatment that's available, the bisphosphonate remains standard treatments to today for every patient who's got an osteoporosis or osteopenia. It has been time tested 1 week, the only thing you should be sitting after you take it to be taken on an empty stomach. Rest of the things you need to look at, teriparatide only for those who are really osteoporotic or minus 2.5 and above. Just to give, how do you really individualize the therapy? Wherever the intention is to prevent or treatment of postmenopausal, alendronate or its byproducts would be good enough. Zoledronate acid has been very, very useful, and in US, quite a lot of people use it. Once a year treatment, supposed to be very good, absolutely, but it should be very, very clear and careful when it comes to patient who has got any kind of renal issues. Patient with osteoporosis and chronic disorder, denosumab is the treatment once in 6 months. Cost is a little more expensive. Patient with a high risk of hip fracture, alendronate, risodronate, or you can put zoledronic acid. And this is good for all these orthopedic surgeons who treat fractures. And I think we need to tell them that every person that comes to you with a fracture 60 years and above, and who you think osteoporosis, when you look at the X-ray, I think if it's possible, get a DEXA done. If it's not possible, start them at least on the calcium vitamin D therapy at least sometime. Not sometime, for a long time. Patient with the multiple vertebral compression fractures, now these are the patients who would require teriparatide. They would do extremely well, and whether we like it or not, they have done remarkably well in patients who have got a lot of backache with multiple spine fractures, and whose, if you look at their BMD is 0.5 and above. For those patients who have got some esophageal problems, anaphylaxis, the zoledronic acid is a drug of choice. Steroid-induced osteoporosis, alendronate could be utilized, and for rest of the things, for those postmenopausal, raloxifene could be an adjuvant to the other therapy. Strontium has been talked about. Reduction of vertebral fracture in 37% of 3 years, 43% in 5 years. However, it's not so far approved by FDA, only approved by the European Society. There are some more coming. Romosumab so far submitted to FDA, supposed to be much superior to what has been available now. Parathyroid hormone-related protein, better than present PTS that we have available, supposed to be improving it by 55%. Still, FDA has to give an approval to it. Cathepsin K inhibitors, I was one of the person who started a global trial for this, not through because of the increased risk of stroke. Stopped this treatment. Conclusion, as I said earlier, every one of us will get into osteoporosis, whether we like it or not. I will get a little earlier than most of people here. Last decade has seen a revolution in the management diagnosis. Success has been achieved due to the understanding of basic bone biology. Bone density remains the most valid and reliable measure of fracture. Drugs could be done easily. Each drug possesses specific advantage and side effect. Bisphosphonates, good. I must remember that you must give them a holiday-free period after a long treatment of bisphosphonates. There is need for drugs that could, with high safety, increase bone mass. We have to go on doing a newer and newer drug has to come. There is still no drug for actually to stop bone resorption that is possible. Then we can reduce the intensity. So we'll just wait for the youngsters there, including boy, you got the right? You be one of the pioneers to start a drug never, so that osteoporosis will not be there in the future. That's it. Open questions. If you have the patience, the persistence.
Mr. Shetty, question here, Dr. Prashant from Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
In 2016, do we have a consensus in the Indian scenario as to what is the best regime that we have for our fractioning of femur patients?
Fractioning of?
That's right, yeah.
Still, or you're talking about?
No. With regards to osteoporosis, because quite a few of these are pretty expensive. I mean, as you rightly said, there are lots of recommendations. There's teriparatide, the calcitonin. Of course, in the West, most of these patients are started off with the orthogeriatrician. As you rightly said, orthopedics are only interested in DHS or the PFN. That's the situation in the rest of the world as well. But every hospital has an orthogeriatrician who swing into action, when you have a patient with a femur fracture. But unfortunately out here, I don't think we have orthogeriatricians who are proactive and who work with us. Do we?
We don't need to really, actually. We all be part of the movement. Exactly, that's what I keep on telling all my colleagues, young, old. There's somewhere down the line that we forget that we are treating a bone. We all think that we are treating a fracture. And I suggest that any patient, whether like rich or poor, can afford a calcium tablets and can afford vitamin D. I keep on saying, do not even do it for vitamin D. Do not do it. It's too expensive. You might as well give them 8 sachets every week. You will compensate it rather than that. Much more easier in life than that. I keep on telling. When we talk about patients, yes. If you want today, medico-legally, yes. Why did you start it? Yes. But there is nothing like overdose of vitamin D. Absolutely. So you can safely go, start on a high dose of vitamin D, 8 weeks, give them, follow it on a maintenance therapy, I think is there. Continue to give it as much as possible. Only if you can possibly, like you are in Columbia, you can afford, not your patients can afford to go through a DEXA, doubt. And it's much cheaper than the PFN that we have nowadays. That is it. And so you just have to get this test done. It gives some way a baseline of how do you manage this case. Because a lot of our patients are really osteoporotic. They deserve it because you and I know that 25 to 30% of these people will come with a fracture in the opposite day. And I would believe that if at all you have DEXA, nothing if you start the treatment with that.
Dr. Prashant, the happy thing in India is that got a lot of orthopedicians in the geriatric age group who are treating osteoporosis very actively.
Very active.
Yeah, I should give them a big hand.
Absolutely. But do you think ortho geriatrics, specialty?
Sir, the middle ear composed of bones. Calcium is also important for ionic balance in the crystal. And the autoconia crystals in the labyrinth, they are...
Hey, talking too much of this thing. I don't understand that. I am an orthopedic surgeon. You don't do too much of pharmacology and pathophysiology.
So,
yeah.
My only question is, to come across patients with middle ear problems or sensory neural hearing loss? And is there an association with low bone mineral density, sir? Because the causes that you have mentioned, they can also lead into the changes in the cochlear and the vestibular.
You know what? Seriously speaking, if you ask me, I have never asked, because most of the that age group are hard of hearing. So, but point well taken, and I think that is something that we need to look at, because I think the problem in our country is that we are swamped by patients, that we hardly find time to talk to them for more than 5 minutes, and in that 5 minutes, and then Arun tells me that you have to take a blood pressure in a very silent environment. Where there is a silence in our this thing. I have to literally listen to all the shoutings from someone in this everything. So
at least you can stand a little to your left. You are on the edge. I am a little worried.
No, I'm going through the therapy of that thing. No, but what I'm trying to say is, young man, yes, I think we need to look at it. I think as we start treating it, we will the complications that are associated with that. And many times it is this experience of treating these patients would make us a human being. And that's what it is. Honestly speaking, I looked at it. Seriously, I do.
Sir, and there have been studies in which they gave a vestibulotoxic drugs to the rats, and they found that the bone mineral density reduced after giving those drugs. So, they concluded that vestibular also result into low bone mineral density, sir. There have been 3 articles on this, 15 and 16, and they have concluded that in rats.
Probably yes. I don't know about this study. I only treat you. That's the problem. Mysore for giving me an opportunity, because Bangalore has become so crowded. So I thought I'll come to Mysore and have some fun. And thank you for giving me an opportunity. And I think Mysore, you must be happy that this is the first AMICON that, and like one of the special places which is the cleanest country, I think you should be also happy place where it's happening there. So cheers.